8 seconds. That is the number. 8 seconds is the measured duration of the average human attention span in 2015, down from 12 seconds in 2000. 15 years, 3 seconds, gone. A goldfish holds attention for 9. You have seen this statistic before. It travels through the internet every 18 months, attached to a headline about smartphones, producing a brief, uncomfortable laugh before disappearing below the fold. Before you scroll past it, before you check something else, the irony is so obvious it has become invisible. But there is a question nobody asked when that number first appeared in a consumer research report commissioned by Microsoft Canada. Where did it actually come from? Who measured it? And what exactly were they measuring when they sat down, attached electrodes to 2,000 skulls, and wrote 8 seconds in a column on a spreadsheet? The answers do not make the original story less disturbing. They make it unrecognizable. The Microsoft Canada study was published in 2015. Researchers used electroencephalography, EEG scanning, combined with digital media usage surveys conducted across 2,112 participants. The headline finding propagated across every major media outlet within weeks. Average human attention span had dropped from 12 seconds in 2000 to 8 seconds in 2015. The goldfish comparison was not in the original report. It was added somewhere in the chain of summary and republication that converts scientific data into shareable content. Nobody has definitively traced where the goldfish entered the story. By the time it reached your feed, the comparison had swallowed the finding. And the comparison is not wrong in the way you would hope. It is wrong in a way that is considerably more interesting. Adam Gazzaley is a neuroscientist at the University of California, San Francisco. He has spent more than 2 decades mapping what happens to the human brain when it attempts sustained focus inside environments engineered to interrupt it. In 2016, he and psychologist Larry Rosen published The Distracted Mind, a synthesis of Gazzaley's laboratory work and Rosen's research on technology and cognition. Their central finding was not what most people expected. The problem was not that the brain was becoming incapable of focus. The problem was that the brain was becoming exceptionally good at something that focus requires you to resist. The human brain operates through 2 competing attentional systems. The top-down system is deliberate. It engages when you consciously decide to concentrate, reading a complex document, tracking a sustained argument, following a narrative across time. It requires metabolic energy. It fatigues. It must be actively maintained. The bottom-up system is automatic. It evolved to protect you. It responds to novelty, unexpected movement, sudden sound. Anything that might represent a threat or an opportunity in the environment. It does not ask permission. It interrupts. For 300,000 years, the bottom-up system had relatively few things to interrupt with. A change in wind direction, a sound in the grass, another human approaching from an unexpected angle. The interruptions were infrequent. They were survival signals. The ratio of signal to noise was, by modern standards, almost absurdly favorable. Gloria Mark at the University of California, Irvine spent years embedded in actual office environments, tracking human attention in real time using experience sampling methodology, following people moment by moment rather than testing them in controlled conditions. What she found in research published across 2004 through 2016 became one of the most replicated findings in cognitive science. After a single interruption, it takes an average of 23 minutes and 15 seconds for a person to return to the same depth of cognitive engagement they had before the interruption. And people are interrupted, on average, once every 3 minutes and 5 seconds. 23 minutes of recovery. Every 3 minutes. This means most working adults are never, in any meaningful cognitive sense, fully present with a task. They are permanently stationed at a lower altitude of engagement, cycling through partial recovery, absorbing the next interruption before the previous recovery completes. They are not occasionally distracted. Distraction has become the baseline state from which focus would be the deviation. This is where the popular version of the story ends. The diagnosis embedded in this narrative is degradation. A capacity that once existed has been worn down. The implicit promise is that reversal is possible, that rest, deliberate practice, and reduced screen time could rebuild what was lost, the way a neglected muscle responds to training. That story is wrong, completely wrong. Buried in the appendix of the Microsoft Canada report. Not in the headline, not in the press release, not in any of the thousands of articles that cited the 8-second figure, was a secondary finding. Researchers had not only measured declining sustained attention, they had also measured rapid context-switching performance across competing information streams. In that domain, heavy digital media users outperformed low-usage participants. Significantly, they were faster at scanning multiple sources, better at detecting novel stimuli across parallel tasks, more efficient at rotating between cognitive demands without losing task state. The researchers flagged this. They described it, carefully, as a possible positive adaptation. They left the question open. The question was answered by Michael Merzenich at the University of California, San Francisco, the researcher whose longitudinal work on neuroplasticity established what is now foundational neuroscience. The brain does not stop physically restructuring itself after childhood. It continuously remodels at the synaptic level in response to what you consistently ask it to do. Activate a pathway repeatedly, and it thickens, insulates, becomes faster and more automatic. Neglect a pathway long enough, and the brain, operating with ruthless metabolic efficiency, begins to prune it. Not because it was damaged, because the cost of maintaining it stopped being justified by the frequency of its use. The brain was not degrading. It was adapting. That distinction is not semantic. It is the entire difference between a story about loss and a story about something that cannot be reversed by closing your laptop. Degradation is reversible. Degradation implies a capacity that still exists in latent form, waiting to be reactivated. Adaptation is structural. Adaptation is the brain making a decision below the level of consciousness, below the level of intention, that a particular configuration is no longer worth the resources required to sustain it. The synaptic architecture that supported deep encoding, sustained integration, the slow assembly of experience into understanding, it was not broken. It was reassigned. Systematically, over 15 years, in response to consistent environmental pressure that demanded something else. The 8-second number was never a measurement of decline. It was a timestamp, a record taken midway through an optimization process the participants had not been asked to consent to. The brain had encountered an ecosystem that rewarded rapid switching and penalized extended focus, an ecosystem in which sustained stillness produced no signal, and the most biologically adaptive response was to scan broadly, commit shallowly, and move quickly. And it had responded the way brains always respond to consistent environmental pressure. It changed, optimized by engineers whose success metrics had nothing to do with the cognitive architecture being restructured in the process. Sustained attention is not a general-purpose cognitive tool. It is the mechanism by which the brain integrates information across time, by which sensation becomes understanding rather than just stimulation, by which a sequence of events accumulates into something you carry forward and use. It is the biological substrate of becoming, the process through which experience is not merely registered and discarded, but encoded, layered, made into the person who wakes up the next morning slightly different from the one who went to sleep. The adaptation traded that away. Not because you were tricked, because you were consistent. Because every time you switched before a thought completed, the brain logged it. Every time the discomfort of sustained focus was relieved by a notification, the brain logged it. Every time an algorithm surfaced something more stimulating than what you were already reading, and you followed it, the brain updated its model of what this environment rewards. It was not manipulation, it was education. And the brain is an exceptionally good student. You know something now that you cannot unknow. Most people stop here, a few don't,